Hello everyone, we are studying about the Mauryan Empire, the relation with other parts. With regards to the Mauryan relation with other parts, it can be said that the Mauryan expansion reached its limits. The emphasis shifted to the consolidation and having friendly relation not only with the immediate neighbors but with far-off countries. In Rock Edict 13, Ashoka has referred to five contemporary rulers and the Antiochus II of Syria, Turmia, Ptolemy to Philadelphus of Egypt, Antigonus of Macedonia, Magus of Cyrene, and Alexander of Epirus. The reference to these rulers is in the context of Dham Vijay, indicating that missions were sent to these rulers with the message of Dham. These missions must have successfully established friendly contacts with these parts. However, it should not be forgotten that by this period regular trade was carried with the Western world. The relations of the Mauryas with the Pars in the south seems to have been cordial. The Rock Edict 13 mentions about Dham Vijaya in these regions too. Sri Lanka remained another friendly neighbor, again due to policy of Dham. Thus, we see a shift from a policy of expansion and subjugation to a policy of friendship and moral conquest. The downfall of the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan Empire broke up 50 years after the death of Ashoka, 231 BC. Brihadratha was the last ruler in the main lines of the Mauryas. He is said to have been slain by his Brahmana general Pushyamitra Shunga, who founded an independent dynasty. It has been said that Ashoka's pro-Buddhist policies antagonized the Brahmanas and provoked a strong Brahmanical reaction against Mauryan rule, but his general administrative policy was neither specifically pro-Buddhist nor pronouncedly anti-Brahmana. Pushyamitra's revolt seemed more like a revolt of an ambitious commander-in-chief of armed forces. A coup d'etat was carried out an opportune time. According to another group of scholars, Ashoka's policies, his supposed obsession with non-violence is said to have led to the weakening of the Mauryan Empire. In governance and criminal justice, death penalty was not done away with, nor did Ashoka disband his army. According to Romila Thapars, an entire generation of pacifism cannot weaken an empire and lead to its disintegration. The causes lay elsewhere. It seems that there were financial constraints on the Mauryan economy, as is indicated first by the excessive measures that the state took to increase the taxes on a variety of things. Secondly, the decreasing silver content of the punch-marked coins of the later Mauryan rulers point towards depleted treasury. The huge army, which after Ashoka's conversion to Buddhism had largely become superfluous, was much too costly to maintain. The pre-Ashokan bureaucracy itself was very large, to which Ashoka added substantially by appointing many new officers. The large amounts of money spent under Ashoka on public works and also his tours and that of his official meant a further strain on the treasury. It was the agrarian economy of the Gangetic Valley which yielded most of the state's resources. Here, the expansion and cultivation, extensive use of forest wood, and deforestation in general may have led to floods and famines. There is and evidence of a big famine in northern Bengal in the Mauryan period, thereby drastically reducing the state revenue. It has also been suggested that the state monopoly over metal, which yielded substantial revenue, was being lost. The demands on iron, so crucial for expanding an agrarian economy, could no longer be met by the Magad alone. The search for new pockets of iron ore in Andhra and Karnataka had to be abandoned as tapping their resources proved costly for Magadha. Besides that, protecting the mining areas from intrusion by the local chiefs was not easy. The gradual weakening of royal finances, a quick succession of rulers after Ashoka in a highly centralized administration led to the speedy collapse of empire. The partition on the empire immediately after the death of Ashoka caused disorder and confusion in the administrative machinery. The administration has been so organized by the three early Mauryan kings that the state needed strict supervision and a strong king. Once weak rulers came and ruled for a short durations of time, the imperial bureaucratic setup began to crack down and the empire became politically weak. The provincial governments under the later Mauryans took the opportunity to break away and set up independent kingdoms. Mauryan art, stone masonry was introduced on a wide scale. The ruins of 80-pillared hall have been discovered at Kumrahar on the outskirts of Patna. Undoubtedly, a part of Chandragupta's palace was probably rebuilt by his grandson Ashoka. Ashoka's contribution to Indian art is a number of monolithic pillars and most of them bearing his inscription, which have been found in a widely separated parts of subcontinent. The animals, lance, an elephant, a bull, and a pair of quadruple adorned lance, one of which from Sarnath, surmounted by a wheel, now serves as the official emblem of the Republic of India, which forms the crowning feature of these columns comprise the first important group of Indian sculpture. The sudden appearance of stone carving of such sophistication probably shows that some foreign works, or at least some contacts, were employed. Achaemenid or Sargonite influence on the style of Sarnath lions, Western Asian tradition in the waters of the Abacus rather than of the Hellenistic world. It is also likely to be the product of long tradition in India. There are also examples elsewhere, much less in Iran, of single freestanding pillars made of wood. Ashoka is also associated with a small number of excavated cave shrines in the Baba Hill just north of Bodh Gaya. The only sculptural feature in the doorway of to the cave with a fine relief band of elephants. It is the earliest example of Chaitya art. Like the pillars and their capital, the interior of these caves bear a very high quality polish. The stupa at Bharhut in central India was built by Ashoka in 250 BC and was added to later by the Sungas and Kushanas. It has now practically vanished and its importance lies in the fragmentary sculptural work that still remains. The greater stupa at Sanchi near Vidisha in central India was also first built by Ashoka. Much of the sculpture dates from Sungan times, but the Satavahanas rulers helped to preserve the original Sanchi shrines. The largest stupa with stone railings and four massive gateways elaborately carved with high technical skill with a profusion of figures and reliefs depicting scenes of everyday life is a splendid sculpture monument.